Welcome to the program, everyone. Support comes from 120 Life. Now, I've been paying more attention to my blood pressure lately, and honestly, it hits different when you've seen people close to you deal with it. It's one of those things that you don't feel until it becomes serious. Here's the truth. It's the number one risk factor for mortality. About half of all adults have high blood pressure, and most don't even know it. By March, those New Year health resolutions or habits, most people have fallen off. Life gets busy, but your blood pressure doesn't take time off. That's why I like 120 Life. It is a once-a-day drink made with superfruit juices to support healthy blood pressure. It's not a pill. This is not a gimmick. It actually tastes good, and it's easy to stay consistent with it. So check your numbers. People see changes in as little as 2 weeks. So go to 120life.com, use the code DON for 20% off. That is 120life.com. Use the code DON for 20% off. Your health is very important. And welcome to the program, everyone. Let's get to it. And we start with some breaking news today, okay? And that is why we are a bit late, because we're trying to get ourselves together. It changed just before we were going to go and start streaming. But with the amount of leaks coming out of the White House and the Pentagon, it's easy to tell that many members of Trump's inner circle are not happy with the ongoing war in Iran that had yet to build into actual resignations. That is until now. So as we come on the air, as we are streaming right now, there is some breaking news. Here's a report out of King 5.
Breaking news from Washington, where a high-profile member of President Trump's national security team from Washington state has now resigned. We have just learned that Joe Kent, the director of the National Counterterrorism Center, gave his resignation to President Trump this morning over his handling of the Iran war. According to reporting from the Associated Press, Kent said that Iran posed, quote, no imminent threat to our nation. Kent is a former Green Beret who worked for the CIA and twice unsuccessfully ran for Congress in Southwest Washington's 3rd Congressional District. We will continue following this and bring you any new information as we learn it.
Okay, that's the breaking news. Moments ago, his name is Joe Kent. He is the director of National Counterterrorism, the National Counterterrorism Center. He submitted his resignation from the position, and he says, and I quote here, I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation. And it is clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. So that's huge, considering this guy, it was in lockstep with Tulsi Gabbard, and now he is breaking from her, at least somewhat, but maybe this is possibly what she believes as well, and who knows how long she's going to be, if she's going to follow. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it means that their sense of what's going on is the same or it's somehow changed. And so there he is with Tulsi Gabbard. He was her hand-picked guy. And so before we get into his resignation, who is this guy? That's him with Tulsi Gabbard. He worked as an aide for Tulsi Gabbard, and you can see them together there on your screen. Here's a former Green Beret, as I said in the report, a Gold Star husband. He ran for Congress twice, most recently narrowly losing to Representative Marie Gluesenkamp Perez, who has been on the program. Now he is a right-wing member of the Republican Party. Strong ties to white nationalists, anti-Semites like Nick Fuentes. So, take that for what it's worth. And look, it can feel like I'm saying I'm over here and I'm just talking about things that have to do with the Trump administration over and over again, about them waging war without a plan, throwing the global economy into chaos. And it can feel like, an echo chamber. But it is, I think this is a big deal. And it actually feels nice when someone inside the Trump administration lets him have it. When someone inside the administration says no, and actually says what everyone is thinking, and then I'm not afraid. Regardless of how you feel about him, he has ties to white nationalism. That's horrible. But think about the time that we're in, where the white nationalists are cozying up to Trump, and he's cozying up to them, and the administration's cozying up to them. And now this guy has broken with the administration, and basically what he is saying is that we are fighting Israel's war. That's what he's saying. So let's read from his resignation letter, because he goes on to say, early in this administration, high-ranking Israeli officials and influential members of the American media deployed a misinformation campaign that wholly undermined your America First platform and sowed pro-war sentiments to encourage a war with Iran. This echo chamber was used to deceive you into believing that Iran posed an imminent threat to the United States and that you should strike now. There was a clear path to a swift victory. That's what he's saying he thought. This was a lie and is the same tactic the Israelis used to draw us into the disastrous Iraq war that cost our nation the lives of thousands of our best men and women. We cannot make this mistake again. And then he says, as a veteran who deployed to combat 11 times, and as a Gold Star husband who lost my beloved wife, Shannon, in a war manufactured by Israel, I cannot support sending the next generation off to fight and die in a war that serves no benefit to the American people. I pray that you will reflect upon what we are doing in Iran and who we are doing it for. The time for bold action is now. You can reverse course and chart a new path for our nation, or you can allow us to slip further toward decline and chaos. You hold the cards. Now, that is a very big deal. Have you ever heard, when recently have you heard anyone speak like that to Donald Trump? When have you heard anyone in this administration break with the talking points? Very rarely. And if they do, they kind of beat around the bush. They soft pedal it. This is not a soft pedal. And he's saying, I can't do this. He can't do this. And so, I can't stress to you the importance of this story. And what is to come, if this is going to cause more people in the administration to actually break ranks. But it feels like, to me, you can tell me if I'm wrong, that the wheels are falling off over the Trump administration. The director of National Counterterrorism, the National Counterterrorism Center, Joe Kent, has announced his resignation, saying he cannot in good conscience back the Trump administration's war in Iran. He posted that on social media that you saw, no imminent threat to our nation, and it's clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. Part of which is people's concern about the Democrats and their support for AIPAC and them receiving AIPAC money. And basically, this guy who seems to be a hardliner as it relates to, war and the Middle East, and knowledgeable about it. He may have some extreme views, but he's saying the same thing that you're hearing from Democrats, and he's saying the same thing that you're hearing from people who are not going along with this administration and their lies about this war. As he has resigned, Israel's defense minister said on Tuesday that the Israeli military killed a top Iranian security official. The Israeli military also announced it killed the head of the Revolutionary Guard's all-volunteer force, Basij force. So there's still fighting going on. You're not seeing it as much on the news now as in the beginning when all the strikes, but there's still fighting going on. Israel is still lobbing missiles into Iran, and they're still fighting and killing people. And when they hit that fuel and oil refinery or station, the United States and Donald Trump were reportedly apoplectic about it. But Israel is basically saying, this is ours, our war, and we decide when it is over. Very big news. Israel says Iran security chief Ali Larijani has been killed in a strike. Now, what that means for Iran, I don't know. But from the reports that I've been seeing, Iran is not backing down. Iran is actually sitting in the catbird seat right now, no matter what the administration is telling you, no matter how they tell you that we are hitting this and this much firepower and we have all this, we've got this and we've got that. I have no confidence in what these folks are saying. Rick Wilson is going to join us in a moment as soon as he gets his camera going, but and talk to us about the importance of this, because I know Rick has a lot to say about it. You guys know Rick Wilson. He's a friend of the show and knows about everything as it relates to war and anything in politics. Rick, if you're there, we can't see you, but maybe we can hear you. Is he off camera? Do you know if he's even on? Are you there, Rick? Is Rick Wilson there? No,
I'm
he's not.
here.
Rick.
I'm here.
Here, yeah, well, your camera's not on, Rick.
I know. We're
But
trying to get the camera running. I don't know what's happening. Give me 30 seconds.
are you okay? If you need, or you can talk. Can you talk?
No,
as
we're
you're trying to
Yeah,
do
I can
it?
talk, but we're trying to figure out why it's not coming up and running. So give me a second.
No
we're working
worries.
on that problem, but I'm with you. Yeah, no,
So,
look, I
Rick,
think the Kent thing is a shock, and rightly so. I think people are inside Trump world are going to lose their minds about it, because this is the kind of thing where he demands loyalty from everybody all the time. And if Kent isn't showing it or criticizing him in any way, I think he's going to lose it. Which, couldn't happen to a nicer guy.
I read from some of the letter there. Do we have the camera? Is it up yet? I think
Yeah,
we have to
camera's
turn
up.
it on. Okay, we don't see it here.
Down there.
Rick, we don't see you.
There we go.
There we go. Yay!
There I am.
So Rick, the director of the National Counterterrorism Center
Right.
resigns over Iran war. Did you read his resignation?
Oh, I did, Don, and I have to say, look, this is a shocking thing, because it shows that someone. And look, I'm not a fan of Joe Kent, by the way. He's an asshole.
Right.
And that's a longer story for a longer day. But it does show you that even in Trump world, there are lines certain people will not cross. It's a rare thing to see this inside that world. But the case he laid out, that Iran was not a proximate immediate threat to us, was correct. And look, I'm not in the same frame as Kent is, of which is very thinly veiled blame the Jews. A lot of people persuade Donald Trump to do a lot of stupid shit every day. He's not that smart. He's highly impulsive. He's senile. And so a lot of different forces were pushing him to do this. And he took the bait. He wanted a distraction. He took the bait. So Kent is right that Iran wasn't a threat. I think the origins of Trump's desire to do this, look, he wasn't just like hypnotized by Bibi. There were a lot of factors. That was a factor, but I think there are a lot of reasons why he did it. All of them pretty shitty and bad and dumb. But this is going to cause a big ripple, because it also touches on a thing that's that MAGA has sort of papered over for the last 18 days of this war, which is there is a belief inside MAGA that Israel controls everything America does. And that has been bugging a lot of Trump's very strong supporters. They stick with him, but on most things, but this has divided them, just like Epstein divided them. I think this is a really interesting moment for Trump. Kent is going to disappear from the MAGA universe. They will not talk about it. They will not cover him except to call him a traitor. But he's about to get his views heard by a lot more Americans, I think, than he otherwise would have.
So what does MAGA do? What does Trump do after that? Because Trump can't, I mean, I guess he can. He's going to try to smear the guy, but this guy is a hardliner and has been, and Tulsi Gabbard's right hand, and he's been a MAGA loyalist forever.
And look, let's be real about this. Tulsi Gabbard was also very opposed to this war. She's behind the scenes, is not willing to do it publicly, but there's a long history of Tulsi Gabbard opposing any military intervention against Iran, or for I don't know, 15 years now, including during the campaign and including in the beginning of this administration. So I think that is a fracture point. They're going to blame her for Joe Kent inside the White House. I don't know if she survives or not. She's already been on some thin ice lately. That's why she went to Atlanta to pull that election stunt in Fulton County. And I think she's got and Joe Kent was her guy. She picked him. So I think this is going to be a very challenging time for Tulsi as well. And Don, the other part of this is inside the Trump universe, there are a lot of people at the Department of Defense. Elbridge Colby, who is the Deputy Defense Secretary for Policy, did not want to do this. And now he's all for it. A lot of these people, I mean, Hegseth wanted to do it because Hegseth's like, where's the beer? What's up, bro? Frat boy stuff. But there were a lot of divisions inside the administration on this. J.D. Vance did not want to do this, apparently. So I think it's going to open some cracks and some fissures inside of the White House and the administration. And I know it's opened up a big set of concerns among the MAGA base.
I just don't know how they respond and what the strategy is, because this guy is saying it shouldn't be the quiet part, the real part that most people are saying, that most sane and logical and rational people, not just Americans, but Rick, around the world. That's what he's saying. But he's saying the quiet part out loud for Trump and the MAGA folks who are in it to whatever this, whatever Donald Trump wants. We know that Donald Trump is doing Bibi's bidding. We know that.
Yeah.
People are afraid to say that because they're afraid to be called anti-Semitic. And this has nothing to do with anti-Semitism. This has to do with a bad guy who has led Israel into some horrible situations and is now dog-walking Donald Trump into a worse situation.
Right, and who's doing this? I mean, when you look at the two people pushing Trump in the Middle East the hardest, you've got MBS and Bibi. And talk about strange bedfellows in like the pantheon of bad guys. Bibi is in power, going to war because he wants to stay out of jail. He's a profoundly corrupt.
Well, he's kind of exactly like Trump. I'm just saying.
That's what I was about to say. I think Trump, in some ways, Trump has a sort of vestigial Republican Party pro-Israel thing. But he also has like, oh, Bibi's another guy like me. He pushes to the edge. He's crooked, but he's never been busted for it. All that stuff. I think Trump relates to Netanyahu at a weirdly fundamental level. So, but Don, I want to say one other thing about Kent. This is a guy with impeccable MAGA credentials. Impeccable. He has been a rabid supporter of Trump since 2015. He has never for one moment expressed a single scintilla of doubt about Donald Trump. He is a fervent, full-on flamethrower pro-Trump guy. If this is what broke him, it also tells you, because he has access to more information than we do about this right now, that the claims this war is practically over and it's going great and it's perfect and we're not going to have any blowback and it's going to be over by next week and all that other BS. I think he probably knows where this is headed. It is ratcheting down into a very bad spot. And I will say this again, I don't like the guy, but his wife was killed in combat. He deployed multiple times to the theater. I will say, I don't have to like the guy to acknowledge that what he's doing here is calling out what's true.
How did they get this far then? And how is Tulsi Gabbard this far? If they are, I don't know. How did they get to this point if they're so, considering their stance on Israel and Iran? How did they get this far? And Tulsi Gabbard, I think, is between a rock and a hard place right now.
Oh, I think Tulsi, I think there's a 2 in 5 shot that Tulsi retires or resigns as well, by the way. I think she is her politics on Iran were very clear for a very long time. And they were pretty pro-Iranian regime, not pro-Iranian people. They were pretty pro-regime. And look, all these people that have filled Trump, a lot of people surrounded Trump, especially in the 24 campaign, who projected what they wanted onto him. The 2025 goons said, Trump will help us burn down the government and get rid of the old people. The tech bros said that Trump will make the world into a place that's safe for AI, data centers, and crypto. The evangelicals said Trump will ban abortion, all these things. And there were a lot of anti-war isolationist Republicans who said, hey, Trump will not get us into any more foreign wars. And they project this stuff onto Trump. And that's what a great con man like Trump is able to do, to trick them into thinking, yeah, I believe the things you believe in. You know, the Maha people tricked into believing that Trump was like, oh yeah, I'm anti-vax and I drink raw milk. Cut out of here. You know, it really is a sign of people want to deceive themselves about who and what he is. And I think Gabbard and Kent and many others who were anti-intervention, anti-war, anti-Israel said, that's our boy.
This is a complicated story because, as you said in the beginning, that's a story for another time. But I'm not so sure, Rick, it is for another time. And you said you don't like him, and talk more about his background, because his MAGA bona fides is going to really play a huge role in this, and whether, I don't know if it's going to change the 28 to 30% or whatever it is that support him, but it's certainly going to change the mind of some independents and some people who may be thinking, as I'm getting out, as I have been talking to people, well, I trust the president. I think he's doing the right thing. I want to give him a chance.
Yeah, trusting the president is a declining index, I think, for a lot of Republicans. Look, there is a reflexive vestigial action inside the MAGA base where any opposition to Trump will pull between 25 and 35% of them to whatever position he declares. We're at war with the planet Venus. Okay, we're at war with Venus. They would all be they'd be like, we've always wanted to go to war with Venus. But in this case, there is a large part of the Republican Party that combines the anti-Israel stuff, the anti-war stuff, the isolationist stuff, the nationalist stuff, all into one big bucket. There is a fraction of Republicans who support Trump because they're genetic Republicans. They don't want to leave the party. They don't love Trump. They don't love what he does, but they're Republicans, and they've been conditioned for generations that it's communism or Trump. It's the world burns or Trump. And I think what you see with those people right now, a lot of those people still believe in the old sort of order. They don't think about Putin as a good guy. They don't think that we could just make a deal with anybody. They look at what Trump did in Venezuela and go, why did we do that? We left the same bad guys in charge. Now he's talking about leaving the same bad guys in charge in Cuba. He's talking about leaving the same bad guys in charge in Iran. They don't love the let me build a Trump tower and give me a cut of your oil revenue model of diplomacy. And I think that that was in really big, stark display with Ukraine for the last several years, where a lot of Republicans, look, John Bolton, excuse me, not Josh, different people. John Bolton, a guy who Trump fired, who was in Trump's first administration, is an Iran hawk. And yet he's out saying, there's a lot of things that this doesn't look like it was put together like a real plan. What are we doing here? Did we not anticipate all these things that would be happening? And I think when you do that, and when you're a foreign policy hawk or an Iran hawk, and you were able to say, you're not doing this the right way, you're putting us in danger, and those are people who can see the racket. And look, when we attacked Iraq in 1991 during the Gulf War, we did it because they had invaded Kuwait, and that was going to disrupt the Persian Gulf and disrupt the oil supply and all that stuff, right? My old boss, George Herbert Walker Bush, spent months and months and months and months on the phone talking to other countries, talking to our allies, talking to people who weren't our allies, talking to the American people, talking to Congress, making a plan so that when we went in there to push him out of Kuwait, we did just that. We pushed him out of Kuwait and we left. That was a limited use of force. It was not a full-scale war. When we went back in 2003, we got ourselves caught in the escalation trap. And that escalation trap was, okay, we're going to bomb them first, and then they're going to surrender. Well, they didn't surrender. We're going to invade them, then they're going to surrender. They didn't surrender. We're going to capture Saddam, then they're going to surrender. They didn't surrender. Well, we got to put more people in to calm things down. They didn't surrender. And that escalation trap ended up with 150,000 Americans in Iraq at one point, and we still couldn't finish the job. We stayed in Afghanistan for damn near 20 years and couldn't finish the job. That's not because our forces were not brave, or courageous or effective, or that we didn't have great weapons or great training or great people. It's because we didn't have a plan. And right now, this makes the 2003 invasion of Iraq look like it was planned for years. This thing is a mess. Trump knows it's a mess. Our allies are abandoning us because for the last year, we've told them, yeah, go fuck yourself. Here's a tariff. Do what I want, or we tariff you more. And now that our allies are like, yeah, no, we're going to pass, Don. Thanks anyway. This is not going well for Trump. It's not going well for our country. My wife is on the road this morning, paid $4 for gas. This is starting to ripple through America right now, and the economic impact and the political impact and the military impact and the diplomatic impact, they're all the same thing. It all goes back to Trump.
Yeah, you're right about that. And look, and has not, well, I was going to say it has nothing to do with the gas prices. It does, because it's about the sentiment of the American people. And then you have the government shutdown. I was in an airport and I have to travel this week. I'm not looking forward to it. It took me almost 2 hours to get through the airport as someone, who has the clear and all of that thing to get through. The lines were out the door because these TSA agents are saying, I'm not coming in and working for free. And I can't blame them.
My wife and stepson are traveling out of Atlanta today. Their flight is at 10 p.m. tonight. So they're going to be in that line for 8 hours. It's nuts.
8 hours. Wait, they left already?
Yeah, they're already on the way. So it is going to be this is going to be something. And look, by the way, folks, the TSA lines, the Republicans trying to make this about the Democrats. Here's the deal. If the TSA and DHS wanted to make sure that Americans could travel, they would have not allocated the budget to keep doing the snatch and grab mass men on the street, and they would have funded TSA. That was entirely their decision. It's a political decision on their part. So it's bad.
Rick, yes, it is bad. I'm going to talk more about the economy, and I'm going to get your perspective, if you will, on Tulsi Gabbard and how she feels about Israel. But first, I just need to get this word in from our sponsors, and then I'll be back. Just give me 2 minutes.
Sure thing. No worries.
This episode of The Don Lemon Show is brought to you by Graza. I cook a lot. I'm telling you, quality olive oil makes a difference immediately. Graza is what I use. It's fresh, never blended, and you can see the harvest date. It's right on the bottle, which I love. They've got sizzle for everyday cooking, sauteing, roasting, all of that. Drizzle is what I use to finish dishes, salads, bread, anything that needs a little bit of flavor. And Frizzle handles high heat grilling, frying, whatever you are making. Simple. Good ingredients, done right. And honestly, it looks good sitting on the counter. When I've got people over, I want food to taste like I know what I'm doing. So Graza helps with that. Go to graza.co. Use the code LEMON for 20% off of your first order. Graza.co. Use the code LEMON for 20% off of your first order. The Don Lemon Show is brought to you by the Freedom from Religion Foundation. Now, we talk a lot about accountability here, especially when it comes to power. Right now, there is a growing push to blur the line between church and state. You see it in laws, schools, and court decisions. That affects everyone. The Freedom from Religion Foundation is working to push back. They challenge unconstitutional policies. They call out religious extremism in politics, and they defend the idea that government should represent all of us, not just one belief system. That separation really matters. It always has. If you care about that, this is an organization you should know. Go to F as in freedom, F as in freedom, R as in religion, and F as in freedom, .us/Don, or you can text Don to 511. That's ffrf.us/Don, or text Don to 511-511. Text fees may apply. All right, we're back now with Rick Wilson. Rick, I just want you to listen to this, and if you can cue it into about 30 seconds. This is Tulsi Gabbard on. This is in 2024. She's on with Lex Friedman, and he's asking her about Israel's, what should the response be in Gaza, to Gaza. And she gives a very nuanced perspective. I don't know. Look, let me just see how you feel about it, but here it is.
Okay, yeah.
They are creating immeasurable hate. What do you do with that? From a perspective of Israel, what is the correct action to take in response to October 7th?
It's a complex question with a complex answer. I think Israel's approach has to be in recognizing that delineation as far as possible. And I know it's tough when you have a terrorist group like Hamas that is so interwoven within the community of people in Gaza. But to recognize that there should be and there is a shared purpose there for the Palestinian people to be able to live free and in peace and not under the oppression of this terrorist group, just as the people of Israel would like to live in peace and free from the threat of attack from a terrorist group that wants to exterminate them. The complexities of what's going on in Israeli politics is, I think, a different conversation, but also one that is directly intertwined with the answer to this question when you have some people in the Israeli government who don't want the Palestinian people in Gaza at all and want them to go and repatriate in other countries. I think that's a big problem, and that further exacerbates this hatred and resentment that continues to grow there.
Okay, so
generation.
we'll stop it there. So does that give you any indication of how she might feel about what is happening with Iran and,
I think
what
that was
she's up against in this administration?
Yeah, I think that was a pretty political answer.
Yes, I do too.
I think it was a pretty careful and trimmed answer. I would think that, look, Gabbard has been largely cut out of this process anyway. She was not involved in the planning of this operation. That speaks to, I think, a lot of the administration's fear that she's a liability. I think that her positions on a lot of this stuff that you saw in an interview like that, that was in advance of her being named as DNI. That was her plotting and scheming to make sure she wasn't going to get bumped out in a Senate confirmation hearing. So I don't think we learned a lot about what she truly believes. But look, she has always been a sympathizer with Putin, with authoritarians, and there's a number of things in the back catalog here where she was absolutely raw opposition to any attack on Iran of any kind. So I think that Gabbard, again, they will look at Kent as her person. They will look at this as a betrayal that will have an associative negative impact on her.
So do you, I know you don't have a crystal ball.
Hey, Marco needs another job anyway.
That's true. So what do you think? In or out?
Out. Like I said, I think as of right now, it's like a 2 and 5, but the odds are probably rising.
Really?
Yep.
And how long?
Look, if the war goes on another month, and it will, things are going to get worse, and it will be harder for her to stop what's happening in the intelligence community right now, which is the leaks are coming fast. And the leaks are coming because Trump is lying to the American people about what's happening. There's a reason why the intelligence community and the defense community are talking to reporters off the record, is because Trump is saying everything's fine. We're not being hit. There are no Iranian drones. Nobody's had any, there are no Iranian sea drones, or we would have destroyed them. Well, there are. There's no danger in the Strait. There is. We're not getting hit in Bahrain and Qatar and the UAE and Saudi and Kuwait. We are. All these things are adding up to where it's going to be hard for her to stop the truth telling that's going on from whistleblowers inside the intelligence community, who see a war that is already off the rails and it's probably going to get much worse. And so she'll take the heat on that. And I think on her personal level, her ideology is not about the traditional American national security model of strong alliances around the world, because she's always been in bed for the last 10 years with a lot of the bad guys.
Yeah. Well, she still works for the administration. I mean, that's, you can't get more in bed than that. But look, I want to, can I talk to you, Rick, about the economy, if you will, since we're
sure,
here.
Happy to.
I said I wanted to talk to you about the breaking news, but I want to let's talk about the economy, because Donald Trump spent yesterday and the weekend being, completely humiliated on the national stage. He's begging countries to help him. Like, please, I said it was like Jeb Bush, please clap. begging to, reopen the Strait of Hormuz. The response from the EU, the EU said, we're not going to be blackmailed. This is not
Right.
our war. We won't be pulled into a regional conflict. We're not going to get pulled into this conflict. The response in the UK, we will not be dragged into a wider conflict, is the exact quote. The response
Correct.
from Japan, no, thank you. And then the markets have noticed. And if you look at the markets this morning, the price of oil jumped about 4%.
Yep.
And so I don't know how high it can go before the people in the U.S. start staging major boycotts against this White House. I mean, one oil expert blamed, quote, mixed messages are coming from the Trump administration on the war's duration as the markets focus more on the actions on the ground that remain escalatory. So, I mean, the price of diesel now has hit the fastest 2-week increase ever.
Yep.
The national average is $5 per gallon.
Let me tell you one thing, Don, that we've got to factor in here is that underneath inflation is one of the key drivers of inflation is the price of energy, because it ramifies through the whole economic model. It costs more to put diesel in a tractor. That tractor has to spend more per acre mile of work in a field. That costs the farmer more. That means your strawberries or your wheat or your corn or your soybeans or whatever it is costs more. It costs more to ship that to a silo. It costs more to ship that from the silo to processing. It costs more to ship it from processing to a grocery store. All these things add and add and add and add. And when you've got $4 a gallon gas, as you point out on the slide, $1.21 in a week or in 2 weeks, that is enormous. This is a massive shock. It is going to goose inflation. It is going to drive, paradoxically, it's going to raise inflation, and it's going to drop economic productivity. It's going to drop job growth, which is already suffering very badly. Trump's the worst jobs president in modern history. Thank you very much. And it also means the Federal Reserve isn't going to cut rates anytime in the near future. This model right now, look, the December futures on oil are at $75 a barrel, which is a little lower than it is right now, but that still means we're going to be paying $3.65 a gallon for gas. And that's if the war goes perfectly and we just taco and leave and everything goes back to normal. There is a scenario where we get Brent crude at $200 a barrel, and it wipes out the stock market. It wipes out America's economy. This is all because Donald Trump was too distracted and too easily persuaded to get into a war that was going to wreck the global economy for everybody except China.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what I was going to say. Let's talk about this, because Asia's over us. I mean, and I'll tell you why, because people think like, oh, most of the oil, America gets most of his oil from, the overseas or Strait of Hormuz, and that's not right. The United States is not even at the top. It actually receives, I think, like 2.5% of the oil coming out of the Strait. More than 90% of it goes to countries in Asia. China receives more than a third of its oil. China canceled a summit with the U.S. over tensions of the Strait. That's according to Iran. China is now offering them military intel. I mean,
look, if you are China, you're getting your oil supplies from the Gulf, and you know what? Those tankers are still getting through. Those tankers are still, the Iranians aren't touching those tankers. So Trump has done the absolutely impossible thing of making Xi the responsible diplomatic and political leader in the Pacific, and now Xi feels like his sphere of influence can expand mightily, including in matters of Taiwan. Mm-hmm. And I had a longtime friend in South Korea who emailed me a couple days ago, and he said, does no one in your country realize the massive amount of stuff we ship to you every day, to say nothing of Japan and China, that has to go over on tankers that have to use diesel fuel? And so you're going to pay more. You've gotten a tariff. Now you're going to have a gas tax on top of the tariff tax. And all of this, I mean, I just keep emphasizing this to everybody. This is all Trump's decision. He decided to do this. He didn't want us to go back to business on talking about Epstein. And so he decided he would blow up the entire economy of our country and the world, get us into a war that he has no plan to win and no plan to get out of. And now we're going to send 5,000 Marines to invade Karg Island off the coast of Iran. This is madness at a level even for Trump. And again, so going back to Kent, looping back to that, Don, yes, a lot of people persuaded him, including Bibi, including MBS. A lot of bad people said this is a great idea. Lindsey Graham. A lot of bad people said this is a great idea. It'll be fun, and you'll be able to do this for 6 months, and nobody will care. No one explained to him that he was setting a fuse on a bomb that would blow up under the American economy. There's the only good side here is that Republicans should get ready to lose about 60 seats at this point if this keeps up. So
wow. Yeah,
people are blaming
Hassett. Yeah, Kevin Hassett carries the water for the White House, but even he is admitting that the war, if it continues, consumers are going to be hurt even further. Watch.
You mentioned that there are so many other things that come through the Strait of Hormuz that we do have concerns about. One would be fertilizer. Another would be helium, which is needed for the manufacturing of semiconductor chips. You said you have a plan. What is that plan to make sure that we are getting fertilizer to the proper places that it's needed? Because you can't get the fertilizer there late if you need to plant the crops.
Right. Well, the thing about fertilizer is that I know there are some people who live in fertilizer land on CNBC, but probably most people don't know about how fertilizer works in the U.S. But it's almost planting season, and there's a lot of fertilizer that usually goes down during planting season, including fertilizer that's based on ammonia and urea and nitrogen, and then there's potash that goes in as well, though the potash usually comes in the fall. And a lot of this stuff is made from liquid natural gas, and there's a facility in Qatar that produces so much fertilizer that it supplies maybe about 20% of the fertilizer in the U.S. And so what we've been doing really as an insurance policy against disruption is we've been finding other sources and doing so really quite successfully. We've put established licenses for Venezuela to produce more fertilizer. We've had discussions with Morocco, which has the largest reserve of potash anywhere on Earth. And so we've been all over the fertilizer problem. And I'm not saying that we can eliminate what disruption there is so far, but we can minimize it for sure.
And that would be available for U.S. farmers or available throughout the world? How does it work, and what's the time frame?
We're focused on U.S. farmers and getting stuff to the U.S. farmers. That's right.
But so you're convinced that
we've identified the supplies that are disrupted from the Gulf and tried to successfully found alternative sources for a lot of it.
Okay. Kevin Hassett, thank you for joining us this morning, Kevin. We appreciate your time.
If I could package up Kevin Hassett's bullshit, we would have an unlimited supply of fertilizer for the entirety of the universe. My God.
So what is he talking about, and why did they have him out there? But go on with your thought.
So yes, a lot of fertilizer is made from natural gas, and it's converted. There's a lot of chemical processes. But I got to get back to something because my family is in agriculture. We are in citrus, soy, corn, hogs. Planting season is now, you dumb fucker. I mean, he's like, oh, it's going to be fine. No, you have to have planting season. You have to have supplies of fertilizer constantly throughout the year. And it just blows my mind that he's trying to bullshit his way through something he knows nothing about. And that he's trying to say it's all going to be okay. These other countries don't have their fertilizer production system scaled up to the same level. Qatar has the largest natural gas fields in the world, and their facilities are some of the largest and fastest producing in the world. This guy doesn't know a damn thing about this. As for helium coming out of the Gulf, that's another byproduct of natural gas. You pull a lot of helium out when you're pulling the natural gas out, and we've already sold off most of our helium, natural reserve of helium, which is I don't know what brilliance was that, but you need it for you do need it for chip manufacturing. You need it for drug development. You need it for all kinds of research. And my wife needs helium all the time for the stuff that she does at the lab. All this adds up to a really messed up sunshine Kevin Hassett out there pretending it's all going to be fine. There's not a single economic thinker who's looked at global markets and said this is fine. It's the dog in the room with the fire meme. This is not fine, Kevin.
Yeah. Well, listen, that's not quite the soundbite that I wanted to run, but I'm glad you riffed on that one because you know about it. But look, I want to get this in because I think it's important.
I know the other soundbite you're talking about where he's like, oh, it's when we get through this.
Yeah. But I'm going to play it for you in just a moment. But first, look, I just want to tell people that we know that it's tough economic times right now. And so on this show, we only partner with people who can help, products that I believe in. And this one is from... this one I believe can help you with if you are in debt and if you're doing high interest rates on certain things. So watch this and then we're back. All right, everyone, let's be real. Have you looked at your credit card statement lately? Have you? You're working hard and still getting hit with interest rates over 20%. That's crazy. Just to cover basic things like groceries and gas. That's how people get stuck. American Financing helps homeowners use their equity to pay off that high interest debt. The average savings, around $800 a month. That's real relief. You can talk to a mortgage consultant with no upfront fees, no pressure, just to see your options. And if you start now, you may be able to delay 2 mortgage payments. Here's what you do. You call 888-675-4090, or you can go to americanfinancing.net/Don Lemon. Again, that's 888-675-4090, or go to americanfinancing.net/lemon. All right.
The U.S. economy is fundamentally sound, and that if it were to be extended, it wouldn't really disrupt the U.S. economy very much at all. It would hurt consumers, and we'd have to think about, if that continued, what we would have to do about that. But that's like really the last of our concerns right now, because we're very confident that this thing is going ahead of schedule.
Shouldn't they have thought about this before? What do you mean, Rick, it's going ahead of schedule?
Look, these people do not have a plan. And in life, politics, business, war, every other domain, a plan beats no plan every time. The Iranians have a plan. It's to wait us out and make the pain rise. We have a plan to what? Claim victory every day, watch more shit blow up, watch our economy tank, because the externalities of this decision are going to keep energy prices rising. They're going to break our alliances further. I mean, if you're China, you've got to be thrilled. If I'm China, I'm sending 100 diplomats to Europe right now saying, look, we don't have to agree on everything, but we know that guy's an asshole and we're not going to ever behave that way. And, Trump has burned our alliances to the ground, and the consequences are going to suck.
Mike Johnson is responding to the Joe Kent resignation. I'm not sure if we have it yet, but just moments ago he responded and basically saying what you would think, carrying the MAGA water. He is. Steve Scalise is there and other members of Congress standing, flanking him. Here it is.
I'm on the Gang of Eight. I got all the briefings. We all understood there was clearly an imminent threat, that Iran was very close to the enrichment of nuclear capability, and they were building missiles at a pace that no one in the region could keep up with. They were far outpacing our allies and friends and us in our defense capability, because we had personnel, installations, members of the armed services, and civilians in the region. Iran was building up ballistic missiles at such a rapid pace, and we knew that their plan was to fire them upon Americans. The commander-in-chief and his administration had a very difficult decision to make. I don't know where Joe Kent is getting his information, but he wasn't in those briefings, clearly, because the Secretary of State, the Secretary of War, and everyone, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Kane, they had exquisite intelligence, and we understood that this was a serious moment for us. Had the president waited, I am personally convinced that we would have mass casualties of Americans, service members and others, and our installations would have been dramatically damaged. And so we had to, the president felt that he had to strike first to prevent those mass casualties. That's a summary. I can't tell you the classified part, but that's a summary that's made public, and it's accurate. Yeah, Manu.
So why is he the only one and they're the only ones who've seen this? It's almost like, yeah, I have a girlfriend, but she goes to a school across town. Like no one, people on the intelligence committees, no one in national intelligence except for these guys and Trump are saying that there was an imminent threat. And as a matter of fact, Trump already said, and Caroline Leavitt said it, it was a feeling based on a fact. And then he said, it's in my bones. That's when he'll get out.
Mike Johnson is, I think the technical term is lying. We have already seen in our lifetimes some very bad intelligence that led us to very bad conclusions. In the 2003 incursion into Iraq, we had a source in Iraq called Curveball. Curveball gave us the intel we wanted to see. They've got WMDs, they've got chemical weapons, they've got biological weapon labs, they've got nuclear precursors, all that. It was all a lie. It was all a lie.
Mm-hmm.
He made that up. We searched high, low, and in between in Iraq for a decade to find those things, and they never were there. There was some old chemical weapons piled up in bunkers. They were from World War II era stuff that the Russians had given, the mustard gas and shit like that. I promise you, this exquisite intelligence came from Israel, and it painted the most lurid possible picture. And I would bet good money on that. There was this idea that Iran was about to launch waves of ballistic missiles at American troops in the Gulf is utterly spurious. There's no world in which Iran woke up and said, hey, you know what we should do? We should let the United States get a predicate and a justification for coming to whack the hell out of us. They've played a very cunning game for decades where they push us just to the edge and then they back away over and over and over again. It's been very good for that regime. I'm not saying it's a good thing to do. I'm saying it's been good for that regime. This is not this assertion by Johnson, I predict to you, will be proven to be complete bullshit, top to bottom.
So, Rick, where do we go from here? You said you think that Tulsi Gabbard is not long for that position.
Nope.
Is this going to cause any other fractures in the MAGA movement or in Donald Trump's administration, or do you think this is a one-off and they're going to downplay it?
It's easy right now when there are fewer than 20 Americans have been killed. It's easy right now. And I don't mean that facetiously. I mean that seriously, Don. Right now, there are not dozens and dozens and dozens of grieving families out there giving interviews, talking to their members of Congress, calling the White House. As this escalates, and he will escalate because he's in the escalation ratchet. He's in a trap that only moves one direction. That will happen. And so the MAGA movement, and I mean this just, again, not facetiously, their sons and daughters are much more likely to be in the military because of economic opportunity. And it's going to hit them more powerfully, more painfully, more directly than many other Americans. And I think that when it starts to hit them more directly, they will look at this and say, what's the purpose of this? Was there really a threat? Do we really face this, look, I've been told since the 1990s that Iran is 2 days away from having nuclear weapons. I can tell you, building nuclear weapons is a hard assignment. Putting them on a ballistic missile is a harder assignment. Targeting someone with them is an even harder assignment. Pulling it off and not getting yourself nuked into a lake of shimmering radioactive glass once the Americans get hit is the impossible assignment. I don't think Iran ever looked at their nuclear ambitions to strike, but to deter. And if you're a country right now out in the world and you've got technical capability, Taiwan, South Korea, you're going to build nuclear weapons now because you want to deter bad people from hitting you in the face. Iran didn't get to that point, shouldn't have gotten to that point. I don't want them to have nuclear weapons, but the world is being told that protects you. Mm-hmm. And I think this is going to go badly for the 5,000 Marines that are being sent into the Gulf now. And folks, it will not end with 5,000 Marines being sent to the Gulf. They will then have to put in more folks to deliver air support, more folks to deliver logistics, more naval forces, more land forces. Then they're going to have to put in the 10th Mountain Division or Delta or the 75th to go in and try to find the nuclear material that's scattered all over Iran. This is going to go up one side of this ratchet. And until Trump understands that he has to eat a giant shit sandwich and walk away from this, it's going to keep ratcheting up and put us all in danger.
Well, that's what happens when you eat a shit sandwich. You go, it's a shit. Oh, this is disgusting. Rick Wilson, co-founder of the Lincoln Project. Thank you very much, sir. We'll see you. When's your show? What do you have going? What do you got going?
I've got tonight's strategy session on Lincoln Square, and you can catch me on my podcast, the Lincoln Project podcast, twice a week. And you catch me on Fridays with Behind the Numbers, a polling show that I do with my son, Andrew, where we talk about the polling of the week. It's actually surprisingly good.
It's shocking, right? I saw some of that, right?
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, sir. Well, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Don. We'll see you soon.
All right. Thank you, Rick. See you later. So there you go. And look, this is not, I'm going to talk more about the economy and how this is going to affect you, because that's the real important part. How's it going to come to American shores? America first. I've been saying this and saying this and saying this. America first means America alone right now. And there's no bigger indication than what's in the news now, and how some folks who were our allies and some are adversaries, how they're reacting to this war and their lack of support for this war. First, a word from our sponsors. Support for the show comes from Shopify. Now, when I started the Don Lemon Show, it was a lot. Every day, something new, branding, merch, logistics, all of it. It adds up fast. Shopify made it manageable. It's the platform we use, and it powers millions of businesses. You can build a professional-looking store, manage inventory, and actually reach customers without needing to be an expert. They've got templates to get you started fast, plus AI tools for product descriptions and images, and built-in tools to run email and social campaigns so people can find you. It simplifies everything. And when that first sale comes through, you hear that ka-ching sound. It's real. So if you're ready to build something, you got to start here. Go to shopify.com/lemon. That's shopify.com/lemon. This episode of the Don Lemon Show is sponsored by BetterHelp. March is a time to recognize the strength of women, but also how much women carry every single day. Now, I think about my mom. She was always there, working, supporting everyone, holding everything together, and still finding time to lift me up. A lot of people are doing that right now, showing up for everyone else while carrying their own stress. Therapy gives you a space that's just yours to process, to set boundaries, to breathe a little. BetterHelp makes it simple. They match you with a licensed therapist, and if it's not the right fit, you can switch at any time. They've helped millions of people. If you've been feeling overwhelmed, this could help. Here's what you do. It's very easy. Go to betterhelp.com/donlemon for 10% off. That's betterhelp.com/donlemon for 10% off. All right, but back now with our breaking news, and we're going to talk about the war, the effects of what's happening with the war. But the breaking news is that the director of National Counterterrorism, the National Counterterrorism Center, has resigned. He was Tulsi Gabbard, who is the head of national intelligence. He was her hand-picked person. Now, he is saying that there was no imminent threat from Iran, for that the United States was in jeopardy, but just no imminent threat at all. And he's resigning. He said, in good conscience, he cannot go along with this war. While working with Tulsi Gabbard, he likely agreed with this operation, Midnight Hammer. It was a mistake last year. And Tulsi Gabbard, is maybe in line with him. So we'll see how long. Rick Wilson is saying he doesn't believe that she's long for this position. Mr. Kent, who resigned, was a very far right-wing individual, vehemently believed that the FBI and the intelligence community were involved in January 6th of 2021, the deadly attack at the U.S. Capitol. He smeared black activists as terrorists. He has ties to right-wing anti-Semites, including Nick Fuentes. He participated in a call discussing campaign social media strategy with Fuentes. Can also criticize Twitter's move to deplatform Fuentes, tagging him in a Twitter post. In June of 2022, Mr. Kent gave an interview to Grayson Arnold a live streamer who once referred to Hitler as a complicated historical figure, which many people misunderstood. And so here's the thing. Kent is definitely in the anti-Semite wing of the Republican Party, but it says a lot that this coalition is publicly distancing itself from Trump, despite previously being his biggest cheerleader. So he's saying that there's no imminent threat to Israel, that Israel, basically saying that we are fighting Israel's war. And so that's a very interesting place to be in. So I don't know how MAGA responds, how the White House responds. You saw Mike Johnson, the House Speaker, responding, saying, hey, we've seen the intelligence and there's an imminent threat. That's contradictory to most people who are not sitting in the MAGA wing of the party. Even, some logical conservatives are saying that there's no imminent threat. So I want you to let it sink in that Donald Trump has been begging people that he's been insulting for years, meaning our allies, and now he is begging them for help. And they are saying no. But other countries are entirely restructuring their economies right now. Many of those countries have more to lose, at least when it comes to oil, than we do. So yes, we here in America, we're feeling it at the pump and at the grocery store and in rent payments. But the biggest story is that the rest of the world is feeling it more and that they are done with us. If China gets a good chance to mess with the US economy as much as we just mess with theirs, I mean, you can better believe that they're going to do it. They're going to do whatever they can to screw us over. If don't believe me, I'm going to show you some posts that Chinese social media censors are not allowing online, okay? And I think there's a CNN segment, propaganda, that we can show to bolster what we're saying. Here it is.
Sorry, I don't have that.
You don't have the CNN thing? Okay. Well, we'll show that to you later. But I mean, look, we're in a strange place here. And so global power works. We know how that is. It's not just about who is the biggest military. It's about who people are willing to stand with. And right now, we're finding out that answer, that nobody in this moment appears willing to stand with us because there's nothing to stand for. There was no rationalization for this war. I think that Marco Rubio gave it away right in the very beginning when he said Israel was going to strike and Iran was going to strike back, so therefore we had to jump in. So we are fighting Israel's war. And so the breaking news that we brought to you at the top of this program is that there was an actual big resignation that matters right now. And that is Joe Kent. He's was a director of national counterterrorism, the National Counterterrorism Center. He has submitted his resignation from that position. And he's saying, I quote, I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation. And it is clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. And then his resignation letter goes on and is even more damning than the tweet that he put out just moments ago. So that's the breaking news, and you have all of it. If you want to know anything about the show, you can go to donlemon.com. Go to donlemon.com. And I want to tell you at the top of donlemon.com, just so you know, the tickets are starting to go, so make sure you get them. DL and DL, anything goes. We're at Raleigh, North Carolina on 4/3. We're in Cleveland on 4/4. We're in Boston on 4/17. We're in Tysons, Virginia on 4/18. So get your tickets now. They're going on sale. You never know what you're going to get when you go to one of these shows. Amazing things happen at the shows. And then if you scroll down on donlemon.com, you can become a member today, whatever you need. Want to know about the show, you can watch. If you go to the watch button, that's our YouTube. If you're a member, you can gift some memberships. If you're not a member, become one. Subscriptions are free. And also, I would encourage you, if you're a member on YouTube or you're a subscriber on YouTube, you can please go over to our Substack and our Twitch and sign up and become a member or a subscriber there as well, okay? And then check out our merch store. Everything you want to know about merch, all the merch that you want and love and need, including that. I love this. This is a long sleeve. We finally have a long sleeve Lemon Nation t-shirt now, a long sleeve tee. So there you go. Before they were just in the short sleeve. Now it's the long sleeve. And that's one of the favorites on there. And then also great hoodies because it is freezing in here. I don't know if you guys saw me turning up the heat. It's freezing in New York today. We were in summer or spring weather, and now here we go. We're in the back in the winter doldrums, it seems like. Also, please support journalists. Support the Committed to Protect Journalists, and you can if you go onto the merch store, which is on donlemon.com. You can also get one of the tees. Every single bit of it, all the proceeds go to the Committee to Protect Journalists, okay? So be informed without being inundated until I see you back here this evening at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. By the way, 2 o'clock drop. Check out our 2 o'clock drops. You guys click on those because there are some formative things that happen throughout the day that you guys need to check out. So be informed without being inundated until I see you back here at 10 p.m. 10 p.m. God, it's back on that. I feel like I'm back on CNN. Until I see you back here at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on the Don Lemon Show. Turn the TV off. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss a show. We're live every weekday at 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern Time with new clips dropping at 2 p. and 8 p. And if you want even more Don Lemon Show content, join the Lemon community. Members get exclusive posts, behind-the-scenes videos, and live chats just for you. So hit the join button or visit our channel page to sign up. Thanks again for all your love and your support, and I'll see you next time.